Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about my latest gaming book, known as The Tomes, and it's attributed to someone named Frank Trollman and someone else going by the capital letter K. This is a free gaming PDF I picked up online, legally, and as someone once said, you get what you pay for. Essentially what this is that Mr. Trollman, and I'll attribute this to him because I think most of the work was done by him, was displeased with the way 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons presented certain aspects of the rules. Not just mechanically, but philosophically. So essentially he wrote his own house rules to the Player's Handbook and the DM's Guide into a 340-page PDF document. So this is a hefty book. It's a lot of reading. It took me a number of days to get through. I mean, I admit I didn't read every single passage, but I read enough of it to give you a very nice idea of what this PDF brings to the table, as it were. And I am not one to bow too deeply at the altar of balance. I don't care, for example, if, say, someone wanted to play a race that was one level advancement higher than standard, I would just kind of hand wave that kind of thing. It wouldn't bother me at all. Someone else felt that they were being cheated because they weren't playing a race that was slightly more powerful. I might throw them a feat or some other ability, a background, a bit of fluff with a little bit of crunch to balance it out. So I'm willing to play with a little wiggle room here. That said, this could be described as a little uneven. There are things about it that I like, and I'll cover some of those first. First example is that he comes up with a few ideas on the philosophy behind alignment, which I think are interesting, about the D&D economies, which makes sense, about a take on necromancy. For example, do you take the philosophy that the animation of a corpse is an inherently evil act, or is the animation of a zombie or a skeleton simply a bit of literal animation? Is it just taking a corpse, which is a very convenient shape and size, and making it an automaton that does your bidding and is not, in fact, inherently evil? It is just a tool, no more evil than a sword or a suit of armor or an animated chair. And how those two different philosophies of animating a corpse can affect the game. I kind of like what he did there. He had a nice take on feats, where he threw out the traditional feat trees and he went with a tiered structure. So if you take a combat feat at first level and you have a +0 base attack bonus, you get a small benefit from that feat. But as your base attack bonus goes up, you continue to get greater and greater benefits from that feat. And of course, it's going to do much for a fighter class, because they have a BAB which goes up to 20, as opposed to a mage who's only going to go up to 10. So the same feat can benefit different classes to a different degree based on their level of dedication to that particular skill, which makes sense. A person that's really dedicated to combat should get more out of a combat feat than a class that isn't, that just wants to have a little bit of benefit because it kind of fits their character's concept. He does a very similar thing with skill feats, where if you have only 2 ranks in a skill, it's going to give you a little benefit, but if you've got 19 ranks in a skill, it's going to give you a whole lot more benefit. And both of these philosophies of combat and the skill feat tiered structure encourages people to take that to the 20th level, and I like that. I like things that dedicate your character to a particular concept from the beginning, and you follow through. It makes me think of somewhat what the Pathfinder game did with feats, and with how the game Everstone Blood Legacy handled feats and character abilities. I like the way Mr. Trollman handled these. I also liked he did a very similar thing to armor in the game. And what he did is, for example, if you're wearing cord armor, which is an armor designed for a very dexterous style of combat, often worn by people in a marine or aquatic environment, and you have a certain number of ranks in swimming, you will get a benefit from wearing that armor. And as the number of ranks in swim go up, you get more and more benefits. And since you cannot get those ranks until you are higher and higher level, you get more abilities, but they do not happen until a later time. So it does, to my mind, balance out very nicely. But there are things in this book that I think are unbalanced. he has redone the core classes, all of them, which is cool. He has a different interpretation. I respect that. But some of his core classes have 10 levels. Some have 12, some have 15, and some have 20. I cannot fathom how you can balance a 10-level core class against a 20-level core class. I just don't get that. And one of the core classes, for example, is known as a Shadow Warrior, which uses a plane of shadow-based theme to the class. And at first level, you get a claw attack, and you get draped in shadows, and those shadows provide you with an armor class bonus. But that bonus is +5 at first level, and it goes up 1 every single level after that. So at level 20, you're going to have a +25 to your armor class with no armor and no equipment, no dex bonus. I think that may be a little high. Also, the class gives you the ability to do negative level damage to people every round. That seems a little out of balance to me. You could very easily get into a fight with a very powerful individual, and with a dozen successful attacks, which you could have in a single combat, and particularly if you're taking a style of two-weapon fighting, you could reduce this person to a challenge rating far below you. I think that was a little imbalanced. So I think this document is good for someone that's looking for alternatives to the core game, that they're looking for options. They're willing to listen to someone else's take on how things should be done from a philosophical and mechanical point of view. Again, the PDF is free. You can't beat free. I printed it out because I hate reading large documents on a computer screen. I'm not comfortable with reading anything more than like 5 or 6 pages at a time, and this is 340 pages, so it's a long read. And it cost me very little with my duplex printer, and it cost me $3.49 to have it bound at Staples. So for me, it was worth it. I recommend this to anybody. I will put a link in the doobly-doo, wherever the heck the doobly-doo is, about where you can get this for a copy for yourself. And I recommend it to anyone who likes options, likes 3.5 sets of rules, but is willing to experiment with things that are out of the ordinary.